It's really an opportunity and moment in our lives where we have to be looking at the next generation of leadership. And it turns out there is a huge hunger in this community of people, young people that want to live here, that feel very concerned about the environmental threats of the Great Salt Lake and air quality. Those are the number 2 issues. Housing is a big issue too. You know, the economy is an issue, but this is a very well-run state. And my son happens to be one of those people, and he's the managing director of an organization called Grow the Flow. So I've been living, breathing, and learning about the threat of the Great Salt Lake. And, you know, the 2 things that I know how to do in this community is tell stories and also raise money from people that believe in leadership and believe in good people. So I've been doing that on behalf of the Great Salt Lake with Terry. And in addition to bringing Harvard Divinity School students here, Terry's vision is to create an institute training next generation leaders about the issues of the Great Salt Lake, and also training people that are policy leaders so that we can elect new blood into the Utah legislature. This issue is a public policy issue, and I believe that right now we're compromised because such a huge percentage of our legislature are real estate developers or agricultural, and that there are solutions to the agricultural problem. Right now we're subsidizing alfalfa farmers, and most of the money, the product goes to China and Saudi Arabia. It's a land grab, it's crazy. But we also have to be very sensitive to people that have had, 4 generations of jobs. And so that's what my son does every day, is he gets up and he meets with legislators, and he talks about how do we do this transition, even if it means paying people to not farm until we can figure out that transition. So there's a lot of great things going on, and the person to my right has captured what that boiling, enthusiasm and activism is in a film. Her name's Erika Cohen. She is a Peabody Award-winning filmmaker and Emmy Award-winning filmmaker. She's also somebody that I have worked with since she was in high school, when she was at Spy Hop. She is an absolute next-generation leader and filmmaker, born and raised here, and has all the grit and grace and gratitude of what this state represents. We're going to show a clip of Terry's version of storytelling, and then we're going to show what the next generation version of storytelling is, and then we're going to open up to questions. So if we can run Terry's film that I worked on with Terry and a wonderful filmmaker, and you can see you'll see the difference generationally of storytelling, and it's exciting. It's exciting for us. So let's show Terry's clip, and then we'll show Erika's clip, and then we'll have a conversation. And then Erika will have a little bit of an introduction to what she's doing and with the young leadership in the state.
Our mother lake is calling us home. She is terminal. Her water body is disappearing in drought, evaporating faster than clouds can promise rain or rivers can rise. Avocets and stilts stand in her shallows, reflecting hope. But that is not enough. We need to bring water to Great Salt Lake. This we can do. And if we do nothing, death becomes us. We are the water bearers of her future. Great Salt Lake and the lives she supports depend on us and what we choose to bring. Let it be water, not promises like dust. Let it be actions, creative and bold. Let it be love. Great Salt Lake is a mirror of who we are, shrinking or expanding. Birds are prayers with wings, and we can hear their devotions at the water's edge. We will bring water to Great Salt Lake. This is our vow. This is our work. Under our watch, we can accept nothing less. Who will forgive us if we do nothing? Until all we can hear is the silence.
I never imagined that I'd be longing for a place once so consistent in my life, but now slipping away. I never dreamed I'd be making a film about personal memory. I never thought that I'd be grieving the loss of a disappearing Great Salt Lake, but here I am. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah, the ancestral lands of the Shoshone, Goshu, Paiute, and Ute tribal nations. Great Salt Lake was woven into the fabric of my youth. I floated the lake as a kid, kind of examining the brine strip with my fingertips, teasing friends about the sulfur smell. Oh my gosh, ew, who farted would be the things that we would joke about. My family and I visited Antelope Island year-round. Antelope Island is no longer an island. Anytime guests would come into town, special occasions, holidays, we would visit Great Salt Lake. And Great Salt Lake was this place, not even an hour from the city, where I felt transported into another world. Charting the seasons and the lake levels, I fell in love with the bison and the antelope and the millions of migratory birds. I pictured myself in Where the Wild Things Are, picking up sticks and bones along the shore, and in this very kind of whimsical, youthful, imaginative place, I saw these kind of fantastical, larger-than-life creatures that roamed Great Salt Lake, and I wondered, could I be like them? Wild, strange, free. And now I'm really reconnecting with these memories. What does it mean to be in relationship with Great Salt Lake, who, as Terry Tempest Williams mentions, is in retreat? How has Great Salt Lake changed as an ever-living, evolving entity? Experts say that the lake will disappear by 2030. We are running out of time. I aim to amplify the voices who are really working and have been working for many years to save Great Salt Lake, collectively working to create a sustainable, equitable future for us all. And I'm driven to do so through film. As a filmmaker, I'm inspired by character-driven narratives about courage and resilience, power and perseverance, injustice and justice. I'm motivated to tell underrepresented stories with fullness of complexity in innovative, unconventional ways. Traditionally, my films have kind of revolved around characters as people. And in this film, Great Salt Lake is really centered as both place and character. So for the past over a year now, I've been documenting the incredible work that Utah Youth Environmental Solutions, also known as UYES, has been doing in the environmental justice space. UYES, a youth-led organization, was instrumental in getting the state legislature to officially recognize climate change in 2018. But a lot of their efforts remain unacknowledged or under-recognized. Environmental mitigation goals often include returning the Salt Lake Valley to the original state it was in when the pioneers came, without any mention of the indigenous stewards who have long been here. Indigenous voices and youth voices and knowledge must be included to save Great Salt Lake. In the wise words of one of the UYES organizers, Muskan Walia, she says, "The people closest to pain should be the closest to power." And our marginalized communities surrounding Great Salt Lake are in pain, as the toxic dust from the lake bed, including carcinogenic metals, are airborne, are in that pathway, leading to increased levels of cancer and respiratory illness. There is a precedent for this type of ecological disaster. If we look really close to home, we can see the now dry Owens Lake, which is in California, where uprooted communities have left ghost towns on the waterless shores, and billions of dollars go towards dust mitigation. The Salt Lake Valley, too, could become uninhabitable, and we could see thousands of climate refugees. Lately, I've been having nightmares. As the reality of this environmental crisis seeps into my subconscious, I am imagining a dystopian future full of the lake's ecosystem being utterly collapsed. Stark, haunting imagery is pervasive for me in my thoughts. Endangered animals dying in the tar seeps, birthday parties where children are forced to wear gas masks, ski resorts completely engulfed in toxic dust. As the film blurs these lines between reality and fantasy, I hope that it inspires change, and I hope that it prevents this future from happening. In this pre-apocalyptic moment, I want this time, I want today, I want the film to be a wake-up call, not just in regards to Great Salt Lake, but about loss in general. It's a reminder of what we hold dear before we lose it. Let's take a look at the clip.
I live experiences that straddle the line between pain and access to power. My parents uprooted their lives to make a home here. I have the legacy of another place in me, but Utah is the only home I've known, and it is now under threat. We are all directly being hurt by the mishandling of Great Salt Lake. But our Indigenous, Black, brown, and working class brothers and sisters are in the direct line of fire and are too busy leading this movement that does not acknowledge their loss.
While it takes the greatest amount of emotional labor to fight against the forces that scare us the most, I organize around issues that impact my community directly because the people closest to pain should be the closest to power.
I'm organizing this action because I want myself and other young people in Utah to have a future.
I'm doing this action because I want a future in Salt Lake City.
I'm doing the action because I want to preserve one of our nation's most delicate ecosystems.
I'm organizing this action because our future is in jeopardy.
Because this is literally delusional.
I'm sure y'all saw the dead birds. That's gonna be even worse.
No, I saw a really interesting statistic that more Utahns have been to the ocean than to the Great Salt Lake. Isn't that wild?
Whoa.
Why would you go to California when you, we could freaking float in that water. That was amazing.
And the snow will be gone.
And not even just gone, it would be covered in toxic dust.
Causes it to melt, right?
Yeah.
It's time for us to make a change! Save our lake to save our state! It's time for us to make a change! Save our lake and save our state!
There's another story, a story of those who never really had a chance, the story of environmental justice. I'm a youth environmental justice organizer, but often join meetings having just harvested herbs with my grandmother while breathing in pollution that caused my mom's lung disease. I've been given seats at many tables, but at those tables, deal with not being taken seriously.
The state of Utah hasn't really done anything.
Recent scientific reports saying the Great Salt Lake could dry up within 5 years.
An ecological disaster that could worsen dust storms.
Lawmakers are talking tough about water conservation in the Great Salt Lake.
Water-friendly bills have stalled in the legislature.
As the Great Salt Lake dries up, Utah faces an environmental nuclear bomb.
We need more rain, and we need it now. We need some divine intervention. That's why I'm asking Utahns of all faiths to join me in a weekend of prayer. We may be able to escape the deadliest aspects of the continuing drought.
Wisconsin reporting live from the Great Salt Lake. If you remember in 2022, I was here with this guy who does not say a single word. And now we've got Emma here. Say hi, Emma. Do you talk? Hi. Okay, we are now at the lake, and if you can see, last year we were really sad and somber about it because it was all dry. But today, Becca, will you show everybody the water? God came through for us this year. He did. He came through.
answered prayers. So does this mean that all our problems are solved?
I know, you know, and they know that we are on the verge of ecological collapse, not only in the Great Salt Lake itself, but the land surrounding it. Water diversion from Great Salt Lake inflows is harming our planet, but our people too. How do we cope with the loss of our home? And how can we create solutions that allow people to stay in the home they love? What we will not do is leave our vulnerable communities behind. This is not just a loss of recreational and business opportunities. For many who cannot afford to move away, this is the fight for life. There is no other option, and we will not take no for an answer.
The bad news is that every saline lake that has faced this has failed. So the question is, 2030, how can that be? And we really are on a clock, right? It's ticking, and there has been no success of any saline lake surviving. So we're up against it. But I actually believe in this community. If the water gets diverted, there's enough water that can actually bring the lake to a sustainable level for the birds, for the toxicity. There's also a lot of opportunities in the lake. There's lithium, there are chemicals that can be harvested for business that don't require water. So there's a lot of economic opportunities. But for those of you who live here and ski, the dust from the lake has already compromised your ski days by 14 days. You see it in March and April. You see that brown dust. That is directly coming from the Salt Lake. The snow that this industry depends on is coming from the Salt Lake. So it's all connected, and Park City will be a very different place in 5 years if we don't address this. And real estate values are already starting to go down. Insurance companies understand this. The west side of the valley of Salt Lake, the real estate values who are hurting the communities that are being hurt the most, that are vulnerable economically. Now their only asset, if they own a home, is also being compromised. So yes, it's real. Yes.
Is the LDS Church or the government doing anything?
Yes, actually they are. The LDS Church was the first to donate some water, with water rights. And this is what I believe. I believe that this church as an institution is not going to allow its Vatican City to go down with toxic dust. We won't have the Olympics. We won't have all the things that this community has fought for. We won't have companies coming here. Increasingly, people are concerned about environmental health issues with air quality and the lake. So I do believe that the church will be very active, and they can absolutely solve this problem. And we have to trust that, but we also, have people advising them on water issues and science that I think they're taking seriously. And legislatively, there's like 3 bills that will be important, step in the right direction, but not to the volume that we need. So I've been in some of those meetings. I think it's not just pray for rain the way that our governor said. I think there are people taking this very seriously. And we just have to be mindful of it, and we have to talk about it and say that it matters, in the whole conversation of what it means to be in community. So I'm locking arms with the LDS Church on this. It's essential, it's crucial. There's 2 very important things that are happening. Earth Justice is about to launch an incredible lawsuit that will go. The one thing that the state doesn't want to have happen is to have the Endangered Species Act come in, and there will be 3 species that will go extinct if we don't do something. That's a federal mandate that hasn't been taken away yet and could be by this next administration, but I have tremendous belief in Earth Justice as a legal entity. They have a great track record. And I think supporting youth activism and this organization Grow the Flow, because they're doing so much around the advocacy and the policy, and they're up there These young people up there, they're trained, they're thoughtful, they're respectful, they are, you know, they understand they can't put a smirk on their face, they can't roll their eyes, they're they're really thinking hard about how to work with people that could make legislative change. So I think the legislature is the big thing here. And I don't know, Erika, if you want to respond to that, like what the youth activists are saying. But
yeah, I think it's really, really important to put pressure on legislators. Call, write, say that Great Salt Lake is important to you. What are they doing to address this ecological disaster? And also support causes like storytelling, where we can continue to educate people and get the message out. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and the Cumming family has been unbelievable, both on from the ski industry side and been supporting this issue. The Nature Conservancy has been a very well-trusted organization in the state. They have made a decision long ago that they would never do anything that was policy or legislatively, you know, or legally mandated. And I think there's being pressure on their board to say, you know, there's a time when you have to step up. That they've just wanted to be bipartisan and not be involved in any lawsuits. And I think there's a big, really important internal discussion happening within that organization, which has been incredible stewards of this state and land. So like everybody rising to a new level of, you know, saying this is a line that just we have to hold. 80% of the water is controlled by alfalfa farmers, and they can't be made the enemy. These are people that have worked hard. They have, you know, generations. They're like ranchers. You know, they take great pride in their work. You know, they feel very forgotten. You know, rural America and farmers have been forgotten in this country. I think that's why we have the election. That's one of the reasons why we had the election results that we had. And so we cannot be dismissive. We have to be empathic to the kind of change, and there are leaders in that community that are stepping up, just as there are like duck hunters and Ducks Unlimited. Everybody knows what's at stake there. And we had one more question, yes?
Yeah, so how did the Olympic Committee completely ignore this issue?
Well, I mean, that's one of the cards that we could play. We could start getting athletes or countries to boycott the Olympics coming here, because I think that there's just this idea that this problem is going to fix itself. And it's one of the questions that Sundance has about staying here. It's a real thing for employees. You know, if you're making a decision, a long-term strategic decision about, is this the place? And we have the best governed state and the best economic, you know, future and the highest growth rate. You know, so there's a lot going on in this state that's been really well run. They cannot not address this issue, because it will all go by the wayside. Sometimes I think, do we have time for this storytelling? And then there's other times where I think, this is what we do. Like, this is the only way, you know, that we connect as communities and people around stories. So that's what we do, and we hope it makes a difference. And thank you for being concerned and wanting to learn together. And I know you care about this community, and it's a great community. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.